The history of human conflict is often told through the thundering silhouette of massive tanks, the deafening roar of fighter jets, or the imposing presence of naval warships. However, hidden within the smoke of the front lines lies a more agile, daring, and visceral machine that changed the pace of warfare forever: the military motorcycle. These two-wheeled iron horses were not merely vehicles. They were lifelines. From the muddy, blood-stained trenches of the First World War to the scorching, unpredictable sands of modern desert operations, the motorcycle has been the ultimate symbol of tactical mobility and raw courage. To ride a motorcycle into war is to accept a unique kind of vulnerability. Unlike the soldier encased in inches of steel armor, the military motorcyclist relies on speed, instinct, and the mechanical reliability of a machine that must perform under impossible conditions. These bikes were designed to be indestructible, engineered to scream through enemy territory where no four-wheeled vehicle could dream of passing. They carried the messengers who delivered the orders that saved entire battalions. They carried the scouts who peered into the darkness of the unknown. And in many cases, they carried the heavy firepower that turned the tide of a skirmish. The evolution of these menacing machines reflects the very progress of engineering under pressure. We have seen the transition from fragile bicycles with primitive engines to the rugged, sidecar-equipped behemoths of the 1940s, and finally to the silent, stealth-driven electric bikes used by today's elite special forces. Names like Harley-Davidson, BMW, and Norton became legendary not just on the civilian streets, but as battle-hardened veterans of global liberation. These motorcycles were built with a soul of defiance, meant to endure extreme temperatures, treacherous mud, and the relentless vibration of broken terrain. In this video, we are going to pay tribute to the mechanical warriors that refused to quit. These are the machines that stayed upright when the world was falling apart. We will explore the grit, the grease, and the glory of the 20 menacing war motorcycles that carved their names into the annals of history. Machines so iconic and so lethal that they will never be forgotten. Prepare to witness the evolution of military power on two wheels, where every gear shift was a heartbeat and every mile covered was a victory against the odds. The BMW R71. We begin this list with a machine that arguably set the blueprint for heavy military motorcycles worldwide. The BMW R71 was a marvel of German engineering, featuring a 750 cubic centimeters flat twin engine that provided a low center of gravity and incredible stability. While it was eventually superseded by the more complex R75, the R71 remains legendary because its design was so superior that it was essentially cloned by other superpowers. The Soviet Union's IM-Ural and even the American Harley-Davidson XA took direct inspiration from this bike's shaft drive system and robust frame. In the heat of the early war years, the R71 was a menacing sight, often equipped with a sidecar and a mounted MG-34 machine gun, tearing through the European countryside with a level of mechanical precision that terrified its enemies. The Harley-Davidson WLA. No list of war motorcycles is complete without the Liberator. The Harley-Davidson WLA became the mechanical face of the United States Army during the 1940s. Based on the civilian WL model, the A stood for Army, and it featured significant modifications to survive the rigors of combat. It was equipped with heavy-duty luggage racks, a scabbard for a Thompson submachine gun, and specialized blackout lighting that allowed riders to move in total darkness without being spotted by enemy aircraft. Over 90,000 of these V-twin powerhouses were produced, becoming a symbol of hope and liberation as they rolled into occupied towns across Europe. The WLA was famous for its reliability in the mud. It wasn't the fastest bike on the road, but it was nearly impossible to break. The Norton WD16H was the workhorse of the British Army for nearly a decade. The WD stood for War Department, and this bike was a stripped-back, rugged version of the pre-war 490 cubic centimeters side valve single. What made the Norton so menacing was its sheer simplicity. In the middle of a battlefield, you didn't need a complex engine. You needed something you could fix with a hammer and a wrench. The WD16H served on every front, from the humid jungles of Burma to the scorching deserts of North Africa and the beaches of Normandy. It was the primary vehicle for the legendary dispatch riders, who risked their lives weaving through artillery fire to deliver vital handwritten messages when radio silence was mandatory. Its low-slung exhaust and military green paint gave it a profile of lean. The Rikuo Type 97. Emerging from the east, the Rikuo Type 97 is a fascinating example of how global motorcycle designs were adapted for local conquest. Based on licensed Harley-Davidson designs from the 1930s, the Type 97 was the Imperial Japanese Army's heavy-duty solution for rough terrain. It was almost always used as a sidecar outfit, and unlike many Western designs, it featured a powered sidecar wheel, essentially making it a two-wheel drive vehicle. This gave the Type 97 incredible traction in the muddy and unpaved roads of occupied China and Southeast Asia. With its massive fenders and a heavy machine gun mounted to the sidecar, the Rikuo was an intimidating presence. It represented a fusion of American torque and Japanese tactical requirements. The Indian 741, while Harley-Davidson was the primary supplier for the U.S. Army, the Indian motorcycle company produced the 741, a machine that became a favorite among Allied forces, particularly the British, Canadian, and Australian armies. The 741 was built around a 500 cubic centimeters V-twin engine and was designed to be lighter and more maneuverable than its heavier American counterparts. It was prized for its durability and its ability to handle technical off-road terrain that would bog down larger vehicles. The Indian 741 often operated in the shadows, used for scout missions and rapid courier duties where speed and agility were more important than brute force. Its sleek, scout-like appearance and the distinct sound of its V-twin engine made it a respected and feared messenger of the Allied advance. The Zündapp KS750. If there is one motorcycle that perfectly encapsulates the menacing aesthetic of specialized war machinery, it is the Zündapp KS750. Known as the Elephant for its incredible strength, this was not just a bike with a sidecar attached. It was a purpose-built military vehicle designed from the ground up for the German Wehrmacht. Its most striking feature was the driven sidecar wheel, linked to a locking differential, which effectively gave it the off-road capabilities of a modern ATV. This machine could traverse deep mud, scorching desert sands, and frozen tundra with equal ease. Its 750 cubic centimeters flat twin engine was a masterpiece of cooling and torque, and the bike featured a unique gearbox with 4 road speeds, a reverse gear, and even specialized crawling gears for steep inclines. The IM-0 M72, born from the urgent fires of the Eastern Front, the Soviet M72 is a testament to the power of reverse engineering and mass production. As the Soviet Union faced the rapid German advance, they realized they needed a heavy-duty motorcycle that could withstand the brutal Russian winters and the total lack of paved roads. They turned to the BMW R71 design, acquiring several units through covert means or via the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, and created the M72. This bike was built for one thing: survival. Its frame was reinforced, and its engine was simplified to allow for repairs in the middle of a snowstorm with limited tools. Over 9,000 units were produced during the war, and they became the backbone of Soviet mobility, often charging across the steppe with soldiers firing submachine guns from the sidecars. The Cushman Model 53 Autoglide. Moving from the heavy giants to the small and strange, we find the Cushman Model 53, also known as the Airborne scooter. This was a machine designed for the most dangerous missions imaginable. Built to be dropped out of airplanes in a parachute crate, the Model 53 was intended to give paratroopers immediate mobility once they hit the ground. It was a rugged, stripped-down little beast, featuring a simple 4.6 horsepower engine and a frame made of heavy-duty steel tubing. While it lacked the elegance of a traditional motorcycle, its presence was menacing in its own right. It meant that the paratroopers landing behind your lines were no longer on foot. They were now a mobile strike force, capable of rushing to secure bridges or harass supply lines. It was a utilitarian solution to a complex problem, proving that in war, the BSA WM20, the Birmingham Small Arms Company, or BSA, produced what many consider to be the most reliable British motorcycle of the war, the WM20. This was a side-valve, 500 cubic centimeters single-cylinder machine that was famously unburstable. While it wasn't particularly fast or flashy, the WM20 was the definition of a soldier's bike. It was designed to run on low-quality fuel and to keep moving even when the engine was caked in thick mud. Over 126,000 units were produced, making it one of the most widely used vehicles in the entire conflict. From the evacuation at Dunkirk to the final push into Berlin, the WM20 was everywhere. Its low-revving, high-torque engine made it excellent for escorting slow-moving convoys, the Gnome and Rhône AX2. Rounding out this section is the French Gnome and Rhône AX2, a machine that showcased sophisticated engineering before the fall of France. This was a heavy-duty motorcycle featuring a massive 800 cubic centimeters flat twin engine. Much like the Zündapp, it utilized a driven sidecar wheel, making it a formidable cross-country performer. The AX2 was an imposing machine, wide and powerful, reflecting the French military's desire for high-quality tactical transport. Even after the occupation, the German forces were so impressed by the AX2 that they continued to use captured units for their own operations. Its engine design was particularly advanced for the time, providing a smooth delivery of power that was rare for military bikes. It remains a forgotten gem of the era. The Moto Guzzi Trialce. This Italian masterpiece is one of the most unique and menacing silhouettes on this list. The Trialce was a three-wheeled moto triciclo based on the popular Alce model, designed to provide the Italian army with a mountain-climbing beast. What made it truly terrifying was its adaptability. It was often seen carrying a 20mm anti-aircraft gun or a heavy Breda machine gun. Unlike a standard bike with a sidecar, the Trialce was built as a single integrated unit with a rear cargo bed, allowing it to transport up to 500 kilograms of ammunition or troops over the jagged terrain of the Alps. It could even be disassembled into smaller loads for transport. Its presence in a convoy meant that the infantry had mobile, heavy fire support that could go anywhere a mule could walk, making it a nightmare for enemy scouts. The Welbike, perhaps the smallest machine ever to be called menacing. The Welbike was a secret weapon of the British Special Operations Executive. This was a tiny, folding motorcycle designed to fit inside a standard Mark I parachute container. The goal was simple: provide the paratroopers and commandos of the SAS with immediate motorized transport the second they hit the ground behind enemy lines. It had no lights, no suspension, and only one brake, but it could reach speeds of 30 miles per hour. While it looked like a toy, its purpose was deadly serious. It allowed elite saboteurs to move quickly away from their drop zones to blow up bridges, radar installations, or command centers before the enemy even knew they had landed. It was a ghost machine, silent, small, and gone before the smoke cleared. The KTM 400 LSE military, bringing us into the modern era of tactical warfare. The KTM 400 LSE represents the pinnacle of Austrian off-road engineering adapted for the battlefield. This isn't a modified civilian bike. It is a hardened military asset used by German, Austrian, and various NATO forces for rapid response and border patrol. With its high-clearance suspension and a liquid-cooled engine designed for endurance, the KTM 400 can fly over terrain that would destroy a standard vehicle. Its menacing factor comes from its speed and agility. In modern asymmetrical warfare, these bikes are used by special forces to outrun ambushes and perform high-speed reconnaissance. The Kawasaki KLR650 M1030M1. This is not your average Kawasaki. The M1030M1 is a heavily modified version of the legendary KLR650, redesigned specifically for the U.S. Marine Corps. The most terrifying and impressive thing about this machine? It runs on diesel. In a brilliant move to simplify military logistics, known as the single fuel policy, this bike was re-engineered by Hayes Diversified Technologies to run on JP8 jet fuel or standard diesel. This allows Marines to siphon fuel from an M1 Abrams tank or a Humvee to keep their bikes moving. It is a rugged, heavy-hitting scout bike that can survive the harshest desert environments on Earth. The Husqvarna 250, Swedish military closing out this list, is a machine built for the frozen north. The Swedish military's version of the Husqvarna 250 is famous for one specific, menacing attachment: retractable skis. Designed for deep snow and ice, these skis allow the rider to stabilize the bike with their feet while still applying power to the rear wheel, effectively turning the motorcycle into a high-speed motorized sled. This allowed Swedish couriers and scouts to maintain incredible speeds across frozen lakes and snow-covered forests where any other wheeled vehicle would be hopelessly stuck. The sight of a platoon of Husqvarnas charging through a blizzard is a chilling reminder of how human ingenuity can weaponize even the most extreme environments. It is a specialist tool that turned the winter itself into a tactical advantage. The Christini AWD military. This machine represents a paradigm shift in off-road combat mobility. While almost every motorcycle in history relies on the rear wheel for power, the Christini AWD features a sophisticated, mechanical all-wheel drive system. Through a series of chains and shafts, power is sent to the front wheel when the rear begins to slip. For a soldier in the field, this is a game-changer. It allows the Christini to climb near-vertical embankments, navigate deep silt, and traverse mud that would trap any other motorcycle. Used extensively by U.S. Navy SEALs and Army Special Forces in the rugged mountains of Afghanistan, the Christini is a menacing predator. The Dnepr MT-12. A true relic of the Cold War that refused to die, the Soviet Dnepr MT-12 is the rugged, industrial evolution of the earlier M72 models. Produced in Kiev, this was a heavy-duty sidecar outfit designed specifically for the punishing conditions of Eastern European winters. What makes the MT-12 particularly menacing is its 750 cubic centimeters overhead valve engine and its specialized sidecar drive. It was built with a locking differential, allowing it to pull itself through axle-deep mud and snow. Often seen with a PKM machine gun mounted on the sidecar and carrying 3 fully armed soldiers, the Dnepr was a staple of Soviet motorized infantry and paratrooper units for decades. The Zero MMX. In the world of modern special operations, silence is often the most lethal weapon, and that is exactly what the Zero MMX provides. This is a fully electric, high-performance military motorcycle designed for stealth. Unlike the roaring internal combustion engines of the past, the MMX allows a soldier to approach an enemy compound in near-total silence, with no exhaust heat signature for thermal cameras to track. It features a modular power pack that can be swapped in seconds and is completely submersible, meaning it can be ridden through deep water without stalling. The menacing nature of the Zero MMX isn't in its noise, but in its lack of it. It represents the ghost on the battlefield, a vehicle that allows for rapid insertion and extraction without the enemy ever knowing a motorized force was present until it's too late. The Cagiva T4E, representing the pinnacle of 1980s and 90s European tactical design, the Cagiva T4E served as the primary light reconnaissance bike for the French and Italian armies. This bike brought the DNA of the Dakar Rally to the front lines. It was designed to be lightweight, incredibly fast, and capable of jumping obstacles that would disable a standard military vehicle. The T4E was famously used during the Gulf War for long-range scouting and courier duties across the trackless desert. Its menacing quality comes from its scout persona. It was the eyes and ears of the armored divisions, moving miles ahead of the main force to spot enemy positions. With its tall stance, long travel suspension, and high-revving engine, it was a nimble dancer on a stage of heavy tanks, surviving through pure speed and agility. The Zündapp 150. We saved the most visually shocking for last. At first glance, it looks like a standard Italian scooter, but the Zündapp 150 is perhaps the most heavily armed motorcycle ever conceived. Developed in the 1950s for French paratroopers, Troupes Aéroportées, this scooter was modified to carry an M2075mm recoilless rifle, a massive anti-armor cannon. The bike was designed to be dropped by parachute in pairs, one carrying the gun and the other carrying the ammunition. While the gun was usually fired from a tripod, it could technically be fired from the scooter in an emergency. The sight of a humble Vespa carrying a cannon capable of piercing tank armor is the definition of menacing. It is a reminder that in war, even the most unassuming machines can be turned into lethal instruments of destruction. As we look back at these 20 incredible machines, it becomes clear that the military motorcycle is far more than a simple mode of transportation. From the heavy, side-valve beasts that slogged through the mud of Northern Europe to the near-silent electric ghosts used by today's elite operators, these vehicles have proven to be the ultimate force multipliers. They represent a unique intersection of human courage and mechanical ingenuity. To ride one of these machines into the chaos of combat required a specific brand of bravery, a willingness to face the elements and the enemy with nothing but a thin frame of steel and the twist of a throttle between you and the unknown. These motorcycles were never forgotten because they were often the difference between a mission's success and its failure. They carried the messages that redirected armies. They scouted the paths that saved thousands of lives, and they provided the rapid firepower that caught the enemy off guard. Each scratch on a vintage WLA, each dent in a Soviet Ural, and each specialized modification on a modern Christini tells a story of survival. They are mechanical veterans that have endured the most extreme conditions on Earth, from the freezing Scandinavian winters to the blistering heat of the Sahara. But their legacy isn't just found in museums or history books. It lives on in the DNA of every modern bike we ride today and in the spirit of those who value freedom and adventure. The roaring engines of the past have paved the way for the silent technology of the future, but the core mission remains the same: to provide the ultimate mobility for those who stand on the front lines. These 20 menacing war motorcycles have earned their place in the annals of history as icons of power, resilience, and tactical brilliance. They were born in fire, tested in battle, and they will forever remain the iron horses of the modern warrior. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of military motorcycling. Their engines may eventually stop, but their stories will never be forgotten.